Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome to Visually Uploaded Podcast. We're not doing a cold open this week. My name's Alan. Hello. With me this week, we've got Matt.
Hello.
We don't have the issue this week as well. We have two Matts because other Matt is not on. So we have.
Yes, so you can not be confused.
You know what?
Right.
No, I'm going to let them be confused anyway. just for old time's sake. We also have Trent. Hello, Trent.
Hello, we are also doing a cold open this week because it's not a cold open as in a cold open, but a cold open because we're in Australia and it's freezing.
Except it's kind of not. It's like summer temperatures. And
it's summer temperatures everywhere else in the world that's reasonable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mind you, over in England, it's like 39 degrees and they're all melting.
No, but I love how all the newspapers are just like, it's so fun. Look at these children playing in a fountain. The world's not burning up. What are you talking about? Boris Johnson's going to fix it. Anyway. Trent, hello.
Hello.
I'm glad you're here. And Harvard, hello.
Hello. I have no political jokes to make after that one.
Yeah, I feel like I sort of pigeonholed you all into that. I'm sorry. I'm actually not. I have no issues with making that joke. Okay. We have some stuff to talk about this week. It's Games Week of August. I don't know why I'm sounding so stilted. But yeah, it's Games Week of August, apparently. So we're going to go through that, and after some music, let's go.
You can call me Miku, blue hair, blue tie, hiding in your Wi-Fi, and secrets anyone can find me. You use it, coming from my mind, I'm thinking what's it like to be you? 2020, looking in the rearview. Make me feel like Superman. You can do anything you want. I'm on top of the world because of you. I do nothing that they could never do. I will keep playing around with all of you. I will keep playing around. I'm thinking me, I'm thinking me, I'm thinking me, I'm thinking me.
Welcome back, everybody. Okay, so it is the games of August because it is the end of the month as we record this. So as usual, we're going to talk about all the stuff coming out in the next month, and there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff indeed, and that's good stuff. Okay, so if we run through what's coming out, we'll start with maybe PlayStation 4, the old faithful, and
the one that doesn't have drift.
Sorry?
The one that doesn't have drift.
Yeah, the one that doesn't have drift with the controllers, and you can basically smash those into walls, and they'll keep working those controllers. They're pretty good, actually.
Matt, I'm really sorry. Can I stop you for a second? I thought
Yeah,
the best
yeah.
joke ever.
What's wrong?
It's the best joke. You could write an article about Joy-Con drift and call it Tokyo Drift.
Oh, that's well done, Ellen. that's you've been working on that for at least a week, I can tell. You just add it to your repertoire.
I sensed that bad pun. I was about to say it, and I'm just like, no, I'm going to keep my mouth shut because it's a shit pun. And then Alan's just like, I got a good joke. Stop, Matt.
No, Trent, you miss all the shots you don't take. You would.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah. See, now you're disappointed that you didn't say it.
I am disappointed I didn't say it.
But, okay, let's go back to talking about the games coming out in August.
Tokyo Drift, though.
Okay, so on the PlayStation, we have Age of Wonders Planetfall coming out on August 6th, which is a strategy game, I think, and that's pretty cool.
It's part of the Age of Wonders series.
Yeah, imagine that.
Those games are pretty good.
Also on August 6th is Metal Wolf Chaos XD, which yeah, that's going to be good. That's a classic FromSoft game it's kind of legendary in that it was bloody hard to find and play, and now it's coming out courtesy of Devolver Digital and FromSoft, so that's good. So good. On August 6th, I know this is going to be the game of the year for at least Trent, because he has such good taste in games. The Angry Birds Movie 2 VR, Under Pressure. That's going to be a great game.
See, this is actually the Under Pressure song.
Is there a cover bow in it?
No, God.
On August 8th, Lord of the Rings Adventure Card game comes out, and I'm kind of looking forward to that because Lord of the Rings Adventure Card game was actually quite a good one. So video game version of that is good. Stellaris Console Edition comes out on August 13th.
Good game.
Yep, that's good. That's very good. Oninaki comes out on August 22, which is, well, there's a demo out there right now. You can play it. It's the latest one from Tokyo RPG Factory, and it is really intriguing. I'm looking forward to playing the full thing. It's going to be good, I think. August 22 brings us Life is Strange 2 Episode 4. If you're playing along, then, play the next one. If you haven't, maybe catch up by then. What else we got? August 27 brings Crystar. Crystar is the latest game from Furyu, the publisher behind Caligula Effect. And this one's been published by Spike Chunsoft. It's actually looking really good. It's got an intriguing premise. Basically, you fight and do stuff by crying, which has never been done before.
It has been done. It's Binding of Isaac.
Why is that so funny?
Binding of Isaac. There you go. It's the Japanese version of Binding of Isaac or something. Maybe not. August 27 also brings the Bard's Tale 4 Director's Cut for Dungeon Crawler fans. That's coming out on PlayStation this month, which is great. Bard's Tale is pretty good, and I've heard that this one had a rocky launch, but has got better since. So yeah. Over on the Switcheroo, we have August 1 brings Pandemic, which is the board game thing, and yeah, that should be pretty good. The board game's good anyway, so hopefully the Switch version of that's good. August 1 also brings Hamsterdam, which I know everybody who has taste is looking forward to. Hamster doing brawling. That's going to be fun.
Just to pause you again here, Matt.
Yeah.
The first thing I thought of when I heard that game's name was the Hamster Dance. And then I ended up with the Hamster Dance in my head for like the next 2 days.
Yeah, it'll do it.
What's the Matt, can we put Hamster Dance on the end of this?
Yeah, we're going to do that. If this game doesn't have the Hamster Dance in it, then it's a wasted opportunity.
To everyone.
And oh gosh, Alan, maybe close your ears for a second because August 1 brings Amiga Labyrinth Life to the Switch. It also comes out on PS4, but
is that the boot game?
Yeah, that's the boot game.
It's the one where the W is shaped like
Yeah, that's the boob game.
Yeah, so in this game, it's basically a roguelike dungeon crawler, but actually it's a pretty talented developer in Matrix Software, so it should be a pretty good game. But the core mechanic is you power the girls up by making their boobs grow to like Z size. So Alan might not play that one,
That
but
seems like the least me game.
you might not play that one, Alan.
Might
The thing I
not.
hate about that game
Might not.
is just this controversy surrounding the whole Switch version and the PS4 version. The people interested in that make me not want to look at it ever again.
Yeah. So the PlayStation 4 version's been pretty heavily edited in order to appease Sony, let's put it that way. And of course, that's causing a bunch of people that you probably shouldn't pay attention to throwing tantrums about and all kinds of stuff. So it's nonsense. But the game itself, hopefully it's good. I like a good dungeon crawler. So bit of fan service, never hurt anybody. Moving on, August 8 brings the Switch port of Pillars of Eternity, which is going to be great.
Yeah.
I'm actually really looking forward to having that on the go. Really like that on the PS4. Looking forward to playing that on the Switch. What else we got? August 13 brings Friday the 13th to Switch.
The asymmetrical multiplayer game.
Yeah, that's the one where
How is
one person plays as Jason and then everybody else plays as Jason's victims. Which is,
That game barely runs on any other system. How are they going to make it work on Switch?
I don't know, Alan. I don't
Everything
know.
runs well on Switch, and you know it. It may look a bit shittier, but it works.
No, this is not the issue of the game looking like it is. The game just doesn't run.
Yeah. Well, who knows? It might work. Maybe they've figured out optimization or something.
Maybe someone else is doing the port. Who knows?
Yeah, that's right. Fell Seal Arbiter's Mark comes out on August 14. If you're a fan of tactics RPGs, you absolutely need to play that one, and you may as well play it on Switch because tactics and handhelds go well together. Other than that, for Yu-Gi-Oh fans, a Yu-Gi-Oh game comes out on Switch. Yu-Gi-Oh game comes out on August 20, which is good. Yu-Gi-Oh is not bad. It's fun.
It's not bad.
It's not bad at all.
I want to introduce this to our international audiences. There's a video of a bloke saying "not bad" over and over again when he's caught a fish. It's great. It's Australian culture. Get it in you.
And then finally, Astral Chain comes out on August 30, and that's Nintendo's next one, I guess, after a busy month that they've had this month. So towards the end of next month is Astral Chain, which that's the Platinum Games one, isn't it?
It's the A-Cat game.
You're a cop and you beat people up. In a good way.
And you collect cats. There's cats everywhere.
This sounds like a nightmare.
It's gonna be great. It's Platinum.
Oh, it's gonna be great because it's Platinum, but also like ACAB.
Let's put it this way: it's the first Platinum game I'm legitimately hyped before launch, so it's gonna be good.
That confuses me that you'd pick this one out of like Bayonetta 2 or like
The Wonderful 101.
or Wonderful 101 or like literally
Wonderful
anything.
101 was pretty bad though.
What do you mean?
I didn't like it.
It was
those
pretty
games.
terrible.
I'm telling you this now.
Trent,
This game is going to be good.
Nier Automata, and you didn't mention that as a game that you're looking forward to. That's just terrible.
Yeah, but I didn't hype up for that for launch. It just sort of brushed under the thing, and then I picked it up because you kept complaining about how good it is.
Complaining about how good it is.
That's on you, Trent. That's all on you. It's not my fault you don't know good games.
Speaking of everything being all on Trent, there's another game coming out, which is Bubsy Falls on Fire.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
I wasn't going to mention.
This is
that
also
one
my
because-
fault.
because Bubsy.
You know, before the Kickstarter got cancelled, I backed the game, so it's all my fault.
I have a question. Who is this series for?
Me.
Yeah,
Only
pretty much.
me.
Trent. It's basically just for Trent.
Okay,
People
second
like
question.
me wish say that Sonic, like out of all the old characters, Bubsy was better than Sonic, and the Bubsy games were better than Sonic. That's people like me, basically.
How does it feel to be so categorically wrong?
No, it is right, and you know it. Bubsy 3D was shit. We can all agree on that. But up until that point, the two 2D games were way better than anything on the original Sonic Sega Genesis, or was it Sega Genesis? I don't know.
Mega
It is now. Mega Drive, yes. Aren't they the same thing? Aren't you confusing me?
I mean, Tread's kind of right, but only in the sense that Sonic's so categorically bad and has always been bad.
No,
The
I
point
like
is,
category today.
if something shit like Sonic still exists in this day and age, why can't I have my Bubsy?
To be fair, it
where's
looks
my
like it's gonna be good.
elephant? Where's
It's made
my
by the
elephant?
Bit Trip guys. Made by the Bit Trip guys. It's probably gonna be good.
If it's made by the BitTrip team, that's like fine. I just like still hate it exists.
I don't get Bubsy as a character. It's just weird. It weirds me out.
He builds around puns, but they write 3 puns for every game and they just recycle them.
I'm still waiting for somebody to revive Chameleon Twist. That was the real platformer.
No, Arrow the Acrobat.
I want Bonk. I'm really disappointed that Bonk got cancelled.
Oh,
and
Gex.
Let's bring
Anyone
it
remember
back.
Gex? Gex the
Nobody
Gecko?
remembers any of these animals.
then Gex was okay. Yeah, I'm down for Gex. Yes, let's do it.
Okay, are we doing like obscure mascot time? Okay. I want to see Blinks the Time Cat.
Attacking the
see-
power of Juju.
No, I want to see freaking Voodoo Vince.
Oh, Prehistoric Man. Remember Prehistoric Man?
No, no one does. Not even you. No, I'm all about the Scalar reboot. I really want a Scalar reboot.
Man, those were the days where
Oh,
everything
and-
was a platformer with a stupid character at the lead.
And what was the shitty dog game called? It was like Rough Trouble. Spelt rough as in like RUFF. It was just Ratchet and Clank, but terrible. And like the main character was a dog who swore and said damn occasionally. It was really good.
Ooh. You ever play Ty, the Tasmanian Tiger?
Yeah,
Ty.
Chrome Studios. They're
Yeah,
dead now, aren't
Ty.
they?
They're gone.
Yeah. Well, that's
Yeah,
sad.
there was
Yeah,
a
long-
version recently,
Sad
a
segue.
game somewhere along the line.
Yeah, it was a
someone
mobile
made it.
game.
It was
Yeah.
a mobile game by a different developer, yeah.
I love that for the
Still
last 3 minutes. We could have just been making games up and we would have just made as much sense as we just did.
The
You
bias-
know what really needs to be rebooted? You know, back in the day before like the Ovaltine and the Milo and stuff, how they had the video games coming with them, which were shitty platformers. They need to be all rebooted.
No, leave that to history.
No, they need to be
Actually,
rebooted.
no, you know, I'd love to see that new Pepsi Man game.
No, you don't.
Yes, I really do. If you're listening, still listening after all that, listeners, if you haven't turned the podcast off, go over to YouTube and watch footage of the Pepsi Man game. It's spectacular.
It's an eternal runner before runners became a genre.
Yeah, yeah. It's spectacular.
It's actually ahead of its time in a couple of very strange ways, and I don't like that I'm praising Pepsi Man.
Also, watch the ads. Pepsi Man and the ads were great.
Yeah, they just got like some really fat American dude to just like drink a bunch of Pepsi and they put them in as CG cutscenes. It's really, really good.
No, there's this great ad where, like, I mean, Pepsi Man like breaks into some dude's house because he's out of drink, and points, and then Pepsi appears, and that's the ad, and it's great.
He's a bootleg Kool-Aid man. It's not wrong.
Yeah,
Doesn't
you're not
matter
wrong.
Back to games though. Matt, there is also one more that you missed out for PS4. I think Control is coming out next month.
Yeah, the Remedy game.
Yeah, the Remedy game. And
Yeah.
it's weird because we haven't heard very much about it. We've heard like
It's not a good sign.
1 or 2
Well,
videos.
it's because it's such a shitty name. I just glossed over it. I mean, Control. What's that mean? It doesn't mean anything.
It means you have
Oh, it's a
control.
pun. It means controlling the game, but also being controlled. Oh. No.
And we're going to music.
No, just no.
Here we go. That's it. try it. You're catching on. Terrific.
Come on, everybody. Clap your hands. Come on, everybody. It's a hamster dance. Come on, everybody. Clap your hands. Come on, everybody. It's a hamster dance.
Here comes the music.
And welcome back from that whole stuff. So we had a couple of really sad bits of news this week, actually, and it pertains particularly to the Australian games industry. And probably one of the most well-known games in Australia, Hands of Fate and Hands of Fate 2, the developer has unfortunately had to close their doors, which, it sucks. You don't want to see this ever happen. And it's almost like there's a problem with the way that the creative industries are being funded in Australia, maybe. Anyway.
That sounds like politics, Alan. You don't want
Yeah.
politics in a podcast.
No, not in my gaming podcast. So not my Christian Minecraft server. It's sad. It's really, really sad. If you have played Hands of Fate or Hands of Fate 2, those games are real good. Like, they're very, very good games. Matt, you've probably played way more of it than I have, in all honesty. Do you want to sort of just give everyone like a rundown?
Yeah. No, they were really great. They were a nice mix of, I guess, they were a mix of card game, RPG, choose your own adventure, and Batman style combat. That kind of combo, counter heavy combat system. So they were really good, and I enjoyed them a lot. And when they announced that they were closing their doors, they pushed out, I guess, some early footage of the next game that they were working on, and it looked really, really good as well. Or even in its very early stage, I guess they did that just so the people who were working on it had proof for their portfolios now that they're looking for jobs. I guess that's kind of the most disappointing thing, because in the Australian industry, there aren't that many game development jobs going around because there aren't any big studios. So those guys finding work is going to be tough for them, unfortunately.
Well, we had a similar sort of thing when 2K Marin closed, and that was really sad because they worked on BioShock 2, which I still think is the best playing BioShock game in the series.
Yeah, that was the last big developer that Australia had. So once they shuttered, that was it. We don't actually have
They
any.
also worked on the best Borderlands game because Randy Pitchford didn't touch it.
Oh, pre-sequel.
Yeah, it's the best Borderlands game.
Dragonlands.
Disagree.
So, I mean, the Australian games industry has been in a tough spot, and they've, we finally got to a point, I guess, where the smaller studios were starting to grow again, and the output was pretty good. I mean, Hands of Fate is a great game. We've also had a small team in Sydney called Uppercut Games do City of Brass, which is a really good roguelike first-person shootery thing. I'm
going to quickly interject here and say that Screen Victoria, Victoria is one of the states in Australia if you're international. They have been supporting a bunch of smaller indie games and doing some grants, which pretty much led into, what's it called? The board game that's with
I was actually getting to that. Down in Melbourne, Armello.
Yeah, Armello.
Armello, which is a really delightful game, and it's been going quite strong ever since it came out, and that
There's a
team
sequel
is
coming out,
doing
isn't there?
pretty good. I think they're working on a sequel. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, they should be working on something. They need to create a new game. Armello's been supported for quite a while, so they probably need to move on to the next thing. But there's another strong team down in Melbourne that's been doing some really interesting things recently called Tin Man Games. They did Warlock of Fire Top Mountain and another similar style kind of board game choose your own adventure thing for PlayStation VR. So there is some talent there. There's plenty of talent in Australia. We tend to punch above our weight. I guess the one thing that because of the news, I started to think about the Australian games industry as well. And one of the things that I've always wondered about the Australian industry, and it doesn't seem to be. I mean, a lot of the games that Australian game developers create aren't really recognizable as Australian games. They don't really tell Australian stories as such.
Yeah.
And there's been a couple of attempts. Like there was one team that made Storm Boy. They made a
really good.
a video game
good,
version of
right?
Storm Boy, which is a classic Australian novel.
And
And there's another one that's just come out this week, which is very iconically Australian, I guess. It's called The Black Widow, and it's a small game released for PC and tablets. And it follows the true story of a woman called Louisa Collins, who was the last woman to actually be hung, the last execution in Australia. So there's a game on her story that's just come out. But yeah, there aren't too many Australian developers that are really trying to push Australian stories, and I think that's something that I would like to see the developers that are left perhaps look at, because I think there's a lot of, I mean, video games are kind of the main form of entertainment and or art out there these days. So it would be nice to see Australia as a country and a culture reflected through these games a bit more.
I'd love to see a Valiant Hearts style game with an Australian focus.
Or like Gallipoli, but
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. Something that tells a uniquely Australian story, but through video game rather than film or literature.
Well, we've also missed out on probably my favorite Australian game, which is Hollow Knight.
Yes.
Which was made
Well,
by
that's
a
the
team
point.
of-
I mean,
Yeah.
that's another game that is, it's made by Australia, but it's not recognizably Australian as such.
it's really you
wouldn't know it
go
came
back
from-
And you go, "Wow, that was Australian," and you're like nicely surprised by that, but you don't support it because you knew they were Australian.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, a Golf Story is another example. Nobody even knew it came out of Australia until
They
the
saw a
rumors
map.
started. Yeah, the rumors
but-
started to flow because the developers so kind of
The
closed
sense
doors.
of humor is very Australian, though.
It is, and that's I think probably where people started to guess where it was coming from. But yeah, I mean, I don't think people realized that Golf Story was necessarily Australian for a while either.
Do you feel
Another
that
thing
other countries? Sorry.
Sorry, just one other thing I'd like to see is for Australian developers to start to engage more with the Aboriginal people. as
Yeah.
well. And I'd love to
Definitely,
see.
yeah.
I'd love to see some games bring some game developers bring some Aboriginal people on to start telling the Aboriginal stories. I mean, there are a couple of countries that do quite well with that. Canada, for example,
New
or
Zealand.
America and New Zealand. These countries actually have developers that work quite well with native peoples to create stories that are authentic and tell their perspective. And I think the games are a great opportunity for that. But I think that that's an area where Australian developers have to pick up their socks a bit.
I'm also in a fairly unique-ish position where I want to see more games be used as educational devices. So I think there's a really good opportunity for a lot of Australian devs to enter that space where it could be potentially used in a classroom. I don't know if you're on the same page with me about this, Harvard, but like I want to see more of that because kids engage with that sort of stuff way more if it's Australian.
Yeah, I am, but on the other hand, at high school, there's like
at high school, absolutely not.
But the thing is, have you played the Storm Boy game, Alan?
I have, yes.
Yeah, it'd be so good if you had someone who was resistant to reading and they had access to that, because that gives
Absolutely.
such a great doorway. Like I think it's really powerful, and you're right, it's something that's not really explored. So
Well, one
yeah,
of the
I would
things
love to see that.
when I was school, this is a long time ago now.
When I was school.
When I was at school, and this is a long time ago because I'm an old dude now.
Yeah,
Back
but
in
the
the
game
day.
curriculum doesn't really change that
When-
much, so it's probably still the exact same thing.
One of the things we looked at was how Shakespeare is adapted into various ways, various
Oh,
different
did you have
media.
to watch the Baz Luhrmann Romeo and Juliet?
Oh yeah.
No,
Oh,
we actually. I mean, what I studied was Hamlet. So, but I looked at modern playwrights and how they have adapted Hamlet. I did Rosencrantz and Guildenstern the Dead and stuff, and I would think that a good opportunity there would be to get a game like Ryan North's To Be or Not to Be, and get kids to read Hamlet or study Hamlet, but then also look at how game developers are working with Hamlet. And I think there's good opportunity there. And I think that it's a good opportunity for developers too, because if you can get into the education space, you've got an awful lot of guaranteed sales for your game.
Yeah,
Just
because you'll have a whole bunch of different pedagogy people being like, "Oh yeah, this is cool."
well, the pedagogy, yeah, but like the government is very much like, ooh, no games. And
Yeah, 'cause
most
it's-
teachers are like that too.
They sort of like cover, it's like, oh, okay, well, class, we're going to read the book, and you read the book, and then it's like, okay, class, we're going to watch the movie. The movie's okay, but the movie's completely different, but it's okay. And then it's like, okay, well, what about the game? It's like, nah. Like, we have that weird attitude when it comes to, I guess, games in general still, that they're for, A, one, for kids, and B, for, they're not educational or not valued in the community.
Which is true for a lot of games.
Yeah,
but
because
we're
they're not
starting to
very
see
good
that-
for education.
Yeah,
touching.
that's the point. Kids are playing Fortnite and the parents see Fortnite and there is no value to Fortnite.
This is where a young bloke like myself can come into a blow school and we can get some stuff done. I don't know why I became from In Rouge.
You're getting ready for your future.
Yeah. I'm gonna.
Also, can I ask before the session goes too long? So you said that Australian games don't really have an Australian identity. Do you feel like games in other countries do have their own national identity? Like if you
Well,
play
yeah,
The
I mean-
Witcher, are you like this is very Eastern European?
I mean,
Stalker.
Japan.
Yeah, Japan with
Yeah.
like Bayonetta and all that sort of.
Like Japanese games are quite clearly identifiably Japanese, and I'd say also Chinese games. I mean, I was singing the praises of Sword and Fairy a couple of months ago,
the RPG.
and that is very explicitly a Chinese game, and that's great. And I think that stuff is valuable. I think Poland also. I think
Scenic
Poland's industry has developed to a point where Polish games, even if they're not explicitly about Poland, but there's this very specific tone and style about Polish games, and I think that's whether you're playing The Witcher or Dying Light or any of the games that come out of Poland, I think that country has a very strong national identity to its game development as well. So yeah, I think that there are some examples of that, and I think Australia, there's an opportunity for Australians to start doing that, but at the moment I think the market's kind of small and we're struggling to stay relevant, and our big studios keeps closing, so it's difficult to focus on getting that identity as a game development space.
Yeah, and this sort of comes back to the idea we were talking about before, Matt, with telling actually Australian stories. The Witcher is based upon like a whole bunch of like fables and everything from that part of Europe, so it makes sense. And you can identify those things, like even I think Blood and Wine's all about Faust, and like that's a fairly quintessential sort of European story that it was very easily adapted into a sort of French-ish setting with Toussaint. So like it makes sense. There's nothing like that for Australia. We don't really have a game that has
make
original
a
Australian voices in it.
make a Ned Kelly open world adventure game thing.
You're saying that, but Red Dead would probably work pretty well.
No, that's what I wasn't.
Australian setting.
I wasn't joking. I was saying, Ned Kelly would be a good kind of character and good story to fit into that kind of Red Dead
Best
Redemption
part
style
is
open world
it will
game.
have Tamworth in the map because Ned Kelly comes all the way up to Thunderbolts Rock, so probably even longer. So it's like all of the East Coast pretty much. Like Ned
Or
Kelly.
what
yeah.
another great story that'd be great to tell is the Burke and Will story of
Yes.
or exploring through Central Australia. That'd be great.
That would be. It's like Oregon Trail, but it's
Yeah, exactly.
Australian and also like Telltale-esque. So you
Yeah,
like make
exactly.
decisions about it. That would be fantastic. I'd play that.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Like Australia has a lot of stories that could be adapted into video games. It's I think that Australian developers aren't particularly focused on that, which is a bit unfortunate. I think there's an opportunity there.
Mm.
And like you say, once you do that, then you start to have some kind of educational merit to your games, and you can build a business model around selling the games to the education space. And
Especially if it's a
build
way
the
to
industry.
tell Aboriginal stories and that sort of thing. Like if they could get like their sort of fables and stories into, a little game, and then people can be like, okay, well, they don't really get told that much anymore. So people be like, oh, what's this game? What's this about? Oh,
Yeah,
that's
imagine-
interesting. And then they can read into it a little bit more.
imagine having a bunyip in your game. That'd be the most terrifying bloody horror game ever made.
Yeah, it just eats you.
Yeah, the bunyip.
Horrible. And I think we might cut this section there, I think, because we've sort of rambled.
Well, on that, hopefully everybody's listening's out there Google searching the bunyip, and now they're going to have nightmares for the rest of their lives, but that's okay.
Yeah, that's all right. So I'm going to play some Hands of Fate music because in solidarity with our Australian mates.
And also Google Pilliga Forest Ghost. That's a fun story.
And welcome back. So this last couple of...
That was a very low-key, downbeat welcome back, Alan.
All right, well,
You're unhappy now.
yeah,
You're sad.
I'm a sad boy. I'm a sad boy.
It's because
Yeah.
you lost at civilization, wasn't it?
No, I actually fairly consistently win. I'm pretty good at. I'm actually like not a dumb person.
Low
Sometimes.
key boasting there.
I usually
Yeah.
stop like around when it's just near the end. So he probably does that too. So he wins.
No, I get
because-
really mad if I do that. I actually get angry at myself because it's like I'm so close. I just have to finish it, and then I'll either just like nuke everyone or just like go for culture.
I have that problem with Civilization 2. I always get to like the modern era and then get bored.
No, so I love that
Let's
era
start
because
again.
I start like exerting like loyalty pressure on all the cities around me, and it's amazing. Anyway, Civ. so last week after the podcast, I plunged into my personal hell/heaven, I guess, and picked up the Civ expansion for Civ 6. That's called Rising Tides, I believe, which is basically just climate change the game, and that's fun. That's a good time. I'm really enjoying it. So they've added in, natural disasters. They've added in a more nuanced sort of politics system where you can have.
Does England get to 39 degrees?
No, but there's like tornadoes all the time.
Does your city sink?
Yes, Ben Shapiro lives in those houses now.
Gosh, you had to mention him. You name dropped him. Now he's going to find us, Alan.
Yeah, he's gonna be like, oh, what do you think I'm talking about? Oh, there's Ben Shapiro. Yeah, it becomes. I don't know why it becomes a 1930s gangster in my head. Jordan Peterson's in the background going like, that's absurd. See, you have to look at the lobsters. Anyway, Civ is amazing. It's a really, really good game. If you have never played a Civ game before, this is the time to jump in because the game explains itself fairly well. I started with Civ 5, and that was an interesting ride because the game did not explain itself particularly well, so I didn't like it for the longest time.
You start with like the worst Civ as well. That's like
No, 5's
quality.
good. I like 5.
It's the worst.
I like the religion system in 5.
After 4, it's the worst Civ.
4's good though.
4 is good, but then if you played 4, you would have realized how shit 5 is.
I didn't like 4 that much. I like the soundtrack in 5 more. Yeah, this is the fight. So yeah, I don't know. I really like the Civ games. I think they're fantastic. If you have never played Civ 6, you can get it pretty cheap now. It's like $20, and I've got like 200 hours in this game, which is a lot for me. So,
Lots of content.
pardon?
Lots of content.
Lots of content. It's also on Switch. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it for Switch though, just because you can't get the expansions on there.
No, Switch
Yeah,
is
but it's
great.
it's portable, so it's better.
It's portable, but I don't want to ever go back to base Civ 6 again after playing Rising Tide.
Yeah, it really
Yeah,
does
but-
look like a game changer. I haven't played it yet, but I feel like if I picked that up, I'd be like, nah, I have to play on the PC.
Yeah, it's that good. It feels like a sort of Lord of Destruction, Diablo 2 size expansion where everything's changed. There's a volcano system, for example, where if you're near a volcano and it erupts, the entire tile surrounding it will all be damaged, but it'll also like make the soil more fertile, so you can plant, you can like get farms on it and make it, more viable to grow, which is a really, really cool idea. And then there's also floodplains, which have a similar effect. And there's a whole bunch of new civs. Like you've got Coupe from New Zealand, who is just the coolest, and he's so much fun and so completely different to every other culture-based civilization in any civ game, I'd say, because you start out in the middle of nowhere.
Bit hard to set up your PC on the train though.
You just get a laptop.
You're going to annoy people.
Just get a laptop. That's
Civ,
literally.
you need a pretty good laptop.
No, you really don't.
Yeah,
You can make that game look like trash if you need to.
Yeah, but it looks better playing pretty.
Yeah, it does. Then just buy a gaming laptop. Be a real gamer.
But then
It's
you've got a
bit
big
heavy on
giant
the train.
5-kilo.
You don't want to
Yeah.
be that guy on the train.
Have you ever actually tried to use a gaming laptop?
Yes,
on
I
a train,
have
Alan?
one. I have one. It's
On a
like-
train.
Yes, I've done it on a bus as well, and it sucked. But on a train, it's like more viable.
I don't know about that.
Oh, actually, Alan, I want to ask. When you're playing Civ,
Yes.
how long do you need to play for you to feel like, oh, the session's been satisfying? Like, if you play for 20 minutes, you're pretty mad, right?
It depends on what's happening in my game. If I'm doing like a lot of micromanaging, a lot of like civilian management sort of stuff, I'm okay with doing only 20 minutes. But like, if I am sitting down and I play for like more than an hour, I need to play for more than like 2 hours,
Yeah, I get told a lot of the time, like, my friends will sit down and then it'll be 4 o'clock and they'll finish the game and be satisfied, but they'll also hate themselves. Is that a recurring thing?
See, I don't hate myself because I'm a psycho. Yeah, no, it's a really, really good time. It is a time sink, of course, like any 4X strategy game. This is probably the easiest one to play though. But yeah, it's one of those ones where I will have a game. If you are good at the game and you can get a culture victory or a religious victory fairly early, you can win a game in 4 hours. Like reasonably win a game in 4 hours.
It's very it's very one more turn kind of gameplay.
Yeah.
That's the problem. People get stuck into it, and whatever they're doing, they'll feel like, oh, I just need to do one more turn, but then something will happen, and they'll want to do one more turn, and it just
It's
goes
the only
on
way to
and on.
play.
So, Civilization is hard to put down. So if you
It is so engrossing and it's so much fun. Like, this is the issue. It's not a gambling thing. It's just like, this is the issue. It's just a good game.
yeah, but if you're time strapped, then you're not going to get. You're probably going to find Civilization frustrating because
At that point,
you
you
won't
should
necessarily every time you have a little bit of time for gaming, you'll sit down and think, well, I can't really play Civilization because I don't have that much time, so I'll do something else. So, yeah, it's a hobby into itself, and I do think there are probably better 4X games out there for short play. One example, I actually think it's a much more complex game, so it's much harder to get into. But Europa Universalis
that's a good game.
4 is a game that you can play for shorter periods. Like I can sit down and play that one for half an hour and not feel like I need to keep playing. Whereas with Civilization, if I sit down, I really do feel like I want to keep playing for 2-3 hours in a session. So
Crusader Kings 2 is also very, very good for that.
Crusader Kings 2 is a good one. And what's that space one? I find that's quite easy
Stellaris.
Stellaris, yeah. Stellaris is...
It's releasing on console soon.
Yeah, I have that on PC, PS4. I think it's the expansion that's coming to PS4. But anyway, yeah, I have that on PS4, and I can sit down and play that for an hour or half an hour and not feel like I need to keep going. So yeah, strategy games they're really not good for they're really not good for people who only want to play a short match.
You know what Civ needs to do though is it needs to combine its space genre and like game with its base sim game. Like just make it an
That
extension.
would be so much gameplay.
So
that
I
would
can
be-
do like a spore thing, and like after I've like leveled up my city and got rockets and stuff, I can like then build a rocket and start building a civilization on the moon and shit like that.
Isn't it
That's
like
kind
China?
of that's kind of outside the scope of Civ. Like so the point of Civ is that you're playing through the development of real civilizations, the historic
Yes.
development of real civilizations.
Development of the future. I'm on the moon.
When
Get me to
you
the
start
moon.
going to the moon, you're looking at very different kind of. You're looking at a very different kind of
Also, Trent,
development.
that
It
game
becomes
exists
very
on-
future thinking.
Anno 2077, I believe, has that feature.
That's it.
Yeah.
Similar
Yeah.
feature, where you build your little Earth thing, and then you're like, okay, you know what?
Yeah,
Going up
so
to the moon.
there's a temperate, a polar, and a moon colony in Anno, and you have to like set up supply chains between them all. So that might be what you want.
Maybe I didn't really love Arno though, but I could probably give it another chance. I played like the one before.
No, it's not
this.
really a 4X though.
It's not really a 4X, but it's close to
Yeah.
what you want in terms of like managing a space colony and also like a regular colony.
Trent should just play Stellaris.
Yeah, you should just play.
If he wants a
Stellaris.
space 4X, he should just play Stellaris.
But I don't
That's-
like just space games because just space games are really boring sometimes.
could
It's
also-
just so on space. And...
There is that the old Sid Meier's
Alpha Centauri.
yeah, that's on Good Old Games, I believe, and you can get it for like $5. It's good. It's really good.
It's pretty good.
There was also Civilization. We'll see. There was actually a space one.
Yeah.
Be-
Into
Beyond Earth.
Beyond
yeah,
Earth, yeah.
Beyond
It was
Earth. Yeah. It was. Yeah, it wasn't that great.
There was not much to do in that game other than just like you're gonna put down a farm.
You know why
Enjoy
it
the
wasn't
farm.
good? Because Beyond Earth was around the Generation 5 one. Makes sense, doesn't it?
No, it's because every single Civ game has a problem.
Ah,
No. Civ 2 doesn't have a problem. Never had a problem. Civ 2 was great. Civ 2 is the perfect Civ. That was my favorite by a long way. That was the one I used to spend all weekend. Back
That's the
when I
one
was.
that looks like it's isometric and strange, right?
Yeah,
the
it was
tower.
before your time, Alan. You're probably not even born when it was out.
1971. Some
Yeah.
Pong machine.
1971. You were not that old.
Yeah, I am. How do you know?
No, Civ 2 was the game I actually grew up playing. Like it was, I'd come home from school on a Friday and then end up sitting there playing it till
Sitting
Monday
there.
morning and not getting too much sleep. And feeling pretty stupid after that. But yeah, Civ 2 was the game that got me into it, and I don't know if
Should we
that's around anywhere.
Should we just pivot for a second, Matt, so you can just mention Fire Emblem?
Yes, I want to mention Fire Emblem because if you're not into 4X strategy games, but you like a bit of tactics, Fire Emblem came out this week, and I just have to glow about it a little bit more because, yeah, my review's up. I love the game. As we were talking about last week, I have some issues with its length, its contents bits, but the core Fire Emblem stuff is just great, and the characters are great, especially Pink Miku and...
Of course, Pink Miku.
Pink Miku. Hilda.
Piku. It's Piku.
Piku. But yeah, it's a really great game. It's much more accessible for somebody like you, Harvard, with your question about whether you can you should dedicate too much time to Civilization. If you don't want to dedicate that much time, you can play this one instead. It'll take you a while to get through it because it is a very long game, but you can certainly play for 20 minutes at a time and feel like you're making progress.
So what's this about the school stuff being like completely complicated and like overbearing?
Complicated? No. Just dull. It's like Harry Potter, but not good.
It's like Harry Potter, but not good. Oh, is J.K. Rowling going to write every character in as gay?
No, okay, so between battles, you go back to the academy and you have to organize your lessons for your classes, and your characters all develop based on the lessons that you set them, and you can then wander around the academy and talk to everybody. You can do a bit of fishing, all that kind of stuff. So it's a lot of busy work. And
I did also see you can skip past it if you want.
You can skip past it, and it'll automate a lot of it if you want.
That's good at least, because I feel like I get really into it for the first 5 hours of gameplay, and then just be like, I don't care anymore. I'm done.
Well, the problem is
in a game.
The problem is each month, the conversations change that you have with your characters in the academy. So you basically do have to go. If you automate past that, you miss a lot of flavor, I guess, and chance for characterization. So you can't skip all of it, really. But in terms of it being complicated, I don't know. It might be complicated if you haven't played any games before. It's just surreal going from talking about 4X games and how great they are to talking about Fire Emblem being complicated, because it's not exactly a 4X. There is a lot of character statistics to manage, I guess, because you've got right from the start you've got access to like 15 characters. And you've got to control how each one of them develops so you can end up with a nicely balanced party of characters.
And so like a real school, you start focusing on your favorites and everyone else falls behind, and then eventually they're in a dead-end job and the end.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, Pink Miku got all the luck with me as her teacher. So
all right,
she got very specialized education, and I kind of ignored everybody else.
Why would you say it like that?
If we didn't want to pick Miku, who is the best house to pick? I'm hearing either the Black Eagles or whatever, it's Black Owls, something like that, or the Yellow Deers are the ones to pick, but the blue one is crap. Is that true?
Well, I mean,
I've heard a lot about Team Instinct. Yes,
they're all the same, but Golden Deer is the one with Pink Miku, so go with them.
All right,
but you can actually recruit characters from other houses into yours anyway, so. It's not the kind of the pick one house and that's what you're stuck with that I think some people are thinking.
To be honest, though, everyone I know in the Fire Emblem fandom is super into waifus and husbandos, so I think
that's kind of the point of the series.
Yeah, that's the only way they make decisions.
Yeah, you just pick. Yeah, but you actually they have this cutscene at the start which shows you every single character in every single house. So you just pick whichever one has the character you like the most, and that's why I ended up with the Golden Deer, because there was Pink Miku. Actually,
the question, Trent.
The head of
the
head of the Golden Deer is pretty cool dude too, because he's like a Arabic-looking archer dude, and he's way cool. Claude, he's sexy.
Okay, we're gonna end it at that.
Claude's sexy.
We're gonna play some music that's actually the Maori theme from Civ 6 because it's really good. I like it. It is.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I am very sure. It's a good tune. I don't know why you're being so aggressive about this.
Civ has great music.
It does.
Like the Watson and Matilda theme.
Except for the Waltzing Matilda thing.
No, that's a really good version of that song.
No, it's not.
It's the only good version of that song.
I don't know.
Oh,
why.
I've got a one with the Hatsune Miku to show you.
No.
I've got a Miku cover of Waltzing
No,
Matilda
all right.
to show you.
Podcast over. Bye, everyone.
Podcast terminated.